The roguelite genre is one that's oversaturated, especially in the indie space. Maybe a bit too oversaturated, and I don't mean that as a bad thing necessarily. I love roguelites, but this is a genre that is very hard to stand out in and to show me something different. Skies Above is definitely something that is different. Now, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Maybe there's a reason nobody has come up with a game like this quite before, or maybe it actually turned out to be pretty cool. But hey, that's why I'm here, and that's what we're going to dive into. So in the opening moments of Skies Above, you're going to get like 90 seconds or so of story. Not really going to go into the story because that's the main part of it where it's even shown to you. And all it does is really introduce you to the premise of the gameplay, which is simple. You're going to protect the Leviathan and help it to reach space. So there are different levels, and there are basically different cloud layers that you have to work your way through. There are 5 total, and then there is one boss, which is the final boss. And this is the type of game, like any of the other roguelites that have come before it, that you're meant to fail on. And fail I did. For the first 20 or 30 minutes, I honestly wasn't overly impressed with the gameplay here, and that's because you start out very basic. Now, on top of the Leviathan during the combat sections, all you really do is dash around the screen. You can sometimes grapple to them. You do have a set number of dashes, which you can later upgrade. And you jump around from the robots, and that's how you eliminate them, essentially. You can also roll on top of the Leviathan, which will kill some of the leeches that will occasionally come down. But for the most part, that's the entire gameplay loop, is simply protecting the Leviathan. And then you'll obviously lose. You're going to earn some shards and other different types of currency, like chips to upgrade your robot, which you'll eventually earn. And also these orbs, which allow you to upgrade various things and also even unlock some cosmetics. But for the first 20 or 30 minutes, I just really wasn't feeling it. But I did stick it out to see what else the game had to offer, because I had a feeling like there was going to be some permanent upgrades and things that would spice up the gameplay. And I'm glad that I did, because the middle portion of Skies Above is really enjoyable. Once you get into that groove for the combat and really understand how to manipulate your character, because there is a little bit of a learning curve and some gravity to how your character dashes around in the air, it's incredibly satisfying, especially racking up combos, clearing the screen, using your different abilities you'll unlock, which are super helpful, and then you'll find yourself making some pretty consistent progress. Now, I played this for about 4 or 5 hours, and I had an absolute blast with that middle 5 hours of the game. Like I said, the beginning I didn't really love, but stick it out. Once you start to earn those upgrades and unlock more things in the hub area, that's when the game really starts to expand and become a lot more fun. Now, there's some mini games in the hub area, like you can fish, and then there's also a couple challenges that it'll give you, and completing these will net you some extra currency types. There's a bunch of relics that you'll unlock. You can upgrade these quite a few levels. They're all quite a bit different. And there's just a lot going on here in the hub area that allows you to expand the abilities you have available to you to succeed further and further each run. Now, once I got towards the end of the game though, unfortunately, I was not able to clear this game, and I was fully kitted. For my third and final attempt that I took at the final boss, I was fully kitted. I don't think it's possible to be more powerful than I was, and I was unsuccessful at defeating this final boss. But just for those of you that don't want to see the final boss, I'm just going to give you a heads up. I'm about to show it. Not a huge deal. This isn't really a big spoiler, but still wanted to give a fair warning. This final boss is insanely difficult. Once you get into the later portion of the boss's health, his attacks are so hard to prevent getting hit by, because it's not actually you being attacked, it's the Leviathan, and you will lose large chunks of this health bar. So by my third failed attempt, I just didn't find the game fun anymore at this point. So I'm gonna say that for Skies Above, my biggest complaints overall are the beginning and the end. It doesn't have a good takeoff, and it definitely didn't stick the landing, and I don't feel compelled to try again to beat it, because truthfully, I've seen 99.9% of the game. I've literally unlocked everything. The only thing I haven't done is eliminate this little bit of the final boss's health, and I have to play through a whole run just to get there again. It was a bit disappointing, and I will say that the end of this, for my experience, left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But this is still a game that in the middle hours of it, that middle portion for like 3 or 4 hours, is really enjoyable and quite a bit different than any other roguelite that I have played. This is an example of one of those games that was hidden on Steam, and thanks to Flynn's Arcade, they found it and brought it over to Nintendo Switch so that a bigger audience can check it out. And if it looked cool to you, you absolutely should check it out. But understand that it's a little bit rough in the beginning and a little bit rough in the end. This Switch version also has a few issues. I'm not going to beat it to death over them. And I did report them to the publisher, and they said that they're working on them, which I believe them because I've covered games of theirs in the past and they always fix any issues like this. But the achievements are a little bit janky. There's a visual bug with one of the enemies that you start to encounter on level 4. And then additionally, in terms of performance, unfortunately, the Switch version does have some dips and stutters at times. Hopefully that gets fixed more so than the other two issues, because it's a bit jarring when you clear a screen of enemies and then you're getting all this kind of stuttering. It gets pretty bad at times. You might have noticed it in the gameplay, or maybe you didn't, but it gets to be a little bit off-putting. But overall, I mean, Skies Above is pretty cool. It's disappointing that I wasn't able to finish it, and also that I don't really have any interest in trying again. I don't really have very many times where I play through a game all the way to the end and then just give up. The only other game that I could think of that I covered on my channel that happened was V Rising last year, where the final boss was just so insane that I had no interest in trying again. So it's unfortunate, but I still did have a lot of fun for a few hours with Skies Above, and it's pretty cheap. So this is one you should definitely check out if you want a different type of roguelite game that almost plays a bit more of like an action puzzler as you try to clear all the robots off of your Leviathan. As always, I appreciate you watching this review. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. Comment below if you have any questions, or hey, maybe you have some tips and I can give this another whirl. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. But until next time, have a good one.